Are you looking for an escape from manufactured truth wrapped in selfish agenda? Don't you just want to have a real and raw conversation, all masks and rules aside? That's what you're getting here at Titan Evolution Podcast. Get rid of all the nonsense information and discuss everything under the sun without filters. Listen to real stories of real people who will put your current perspectives to the test, guide you on living the life you truly want, and see everything free from judgment and pretenses. Time to get rid of those unhealthy environments and let your authentic self shine. Here are your hosts, Travis Johnson and Carol Carpenter.
Hey, welcome to the show. Travis Johnson here with my fabulous co-host whose future is so bright we had to wear shades today. Carol Carpenter. How are you doing, Carol?
Great. How about you?
Oh, I'm doing fantabulous. We're here today with a new Abraham, who's a catalyst for transformational healing on the subconscious level. She's born and raised in the burbs of New York, traditional Indian Christian family, which I don't know what a traditional Indian Christian family is. Got her doctorate in physical therapy and operates in the divine feminine, integrating the worlds of science, medicine, healing, energy, and jazz. She offers well-being on the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual levels. Anu, how you doing?
I'm doing great. It's great to be here. Thank you. I'll tell you what a traditional Indian Christian family is in just a few moments.
Good, because I don't know. You're like, oh, it's a traditional, and I don't know what that means. I don't know what a traditional Indian Christian family is. Everything in the intro was true, except for I have no idea where she stands on jazz. I added that in there. Just for
I noticed.
funsies.
And
like,
all that jazz.
And all that
but
jazz.
I do like that song.
Yeah. Is it jazz hands and spirit fingers? Is that how that goes?
Unfamiliar. Can't comment.
Can't comment. I'm so happy that you don't feel the need to just answer a question because you're the one on the camera. Like, you're willing to say that you don't know something. That's a big deal. A lot of people aren't willing to do that.
It does take a certain amount of confidence, I think, which is the opposite of what people probably think. It's like you have to know everything and be the expert. And you know what? We're in all uncertain times and in the complete unknowing of everything. Nothing is certain. So, all I can know is who I am these days.
And
I don't think there's anything wrong with showing a little bit of vulnerability either. I mean, if you don't know it, what have you got to gain just to say, hey, you know what? I don't know.
Yeah. And it makes space for learning. When you say, I don't know, at least there's some space, like you can find out. There's a little bit of willingness, a little bit of curiosity, and who knows, it'll show itself or reveal itself. I had to take my shades off. It was starting to get steamy and I'm like, wait, I can't see you guys.
You fogging out?
I did, but I'm here in spirit, in solidarity with the shady crew and the shady conversation.
Okay, so we're going to have to disclose why we're doing the show with shades on. I have an infection that I found out about, and I ran to urgent care yesterday, and they're doing a really aggressive. What?
How far was the run? Did you have to have like workout clothes on?
Dude, really? We're going to go there. Okay. So
you could have said you went, but you said you ran.
I was panicked. I mean, when it comes to your eyes and all of a sudden it blows up like a balloon, you start to panic. Like, okay, well, it's not happening in my other eye. So I'm going to urgent care, and they took a look at it. I had to wait like 2 hours because I walked in, and they were like, it's an infection and we're going to have to put you on an aggressive treatment. But I can't cancel. I mean, just in being the full entrepreneur that we are, right? We kind of go with the flow. And so I texted Travis this morning. I'm like, so, I have this thing going on. I'm coming and doing the show with shades on. And he sends me back a picture of himself with the sunglasses on. And I go, we're doing it. We're just going to do it. Because it doesn't change anything. Like, luckily, it doesn't affect my brain. So I can't think. So I can still do this. It's just, the California girl in me is coming out today.
There you go. There you go.
Well, listen, this is pretty New York to walk around like this at all times. It's like, I can't deal with your energy. I can't deal with people.
Oh, it's
today.
like a block.
Yeah. Where's my coffee? And just let me stay in my bubble. This is This is a very familiar look for me.
Well, we don't want you to have that look with us. We want you to expose all of you. And Travis, you keep your mouth shut because we know where you're going with this.
Based on the pre-interview, I'm the least dirty person on this camera.
Oh, I have a naughty in me. It's true. I do have the provocateur. She does.
Oh, no, sweetheart. He was pointing the finger at me. So
you. Well, that's what we have in common.
Everything that I say in this show about Carol is really about me, and everything she says about me is really about her. That's like the behind the scenes.
It's like the ultimate classic projection and mirror.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I was like, Carol's really hostile and talks a lot of shit. Like, that's actually me. And she's like, you got the dirtiest mind. That's really her. Like, I'm at best second place on this call.
That I've become familiar with. That dirty mind.
That's not a surprise.
No, I think we share that. We definitely have that in common, I think.
I love
the word me. That's why I own it. I'm like, oh no, I've got a dirty mind. And to me, I think it's funny. I don't get offended by
so much fun.
Exactly.
My favorite people who have the dirtiest minds. You like say something, they're like, yeah, that would be cool with like the leg up and this and that. People are like, oh my God.
Okay, well,
we're not even talking have fun. If that got you fired up, like we're not a good fit.
Yeah, this is not gonna last very well. I'm gonna find this very funny, and you're gonna find this very serious, and you're gonna be offended, and now you're canceled. Travis said leg up. That's a no on the list. Can't say leg up.
I know someone, their whole business is called Leg Up.
Oh, yes, you do.
I would love to know what that is.
You definitely know who it is.
I do.
You do? Oh, yeah. We're not going to say on the show, but you know this answer. But I want to know what makes you a Titan, Anu.
It's interesting. I probably a very not classic answer, which is akin to me, but I would say being an empath in this world and being a sensitive woman in this world, an intuitive, attuned woman, navigating all of these things in reality and also harnessing all of the the energy that I feel that's seen and unseen. So living in the invisible and the visible and it's a lot, but I'm a high functioning human. Thank God. I've got an up and running business. Thank God. And that's an extension of that. But I would say that gift is actually, it's a Titan quality for sure. Yeah.
I wouldn't say that you're unique in that aspect. I think a lot of the people that the more successful they are, the more they are in tune with themselves as a person, themselves as an emotional being, themselves as a spiritual being, the more in tune with yourself on whatever phase of existence we're talking about. That's the people that become Titans. And the Titan is the byproduct or the output of all this stuff that's been the input. And it's always interesting to see just how someone will answer that question.
Yeah, it is. You're right. It's not uncommon, but I feel like it's less talked about. I mean, we talk about emotional intelligence, but I don't know that anyone really just comes out of the gate being like, I'm an empath. That makes me mighty. It's usually like, behind the scenes, it's just an unsaid thing.
Yeah, I say it a little slightly differently. Like, I'm an empath, and that makes me a motherfucker. Like, because I know what you're feeling. People are like, how do you do that? I was like, because I already know what you were feeling. I already knew that when you walked in the room. How do you know that? Like, because I can feel it. Mm-hmm. And people are like,
it's an energy, just like anything else.
Like, really? Exactly. I'm like, oh, yeah. There's a reason I didn't talk to you last week. And they're like, I didn't talk to you last week. I was like, I know. And it was on purpose. And they're like, why? I was like, well, what was going on last week? And they'll tell me. And I'll be like, that's why. And they're like, how did you know? Like, because I can feel it.
Yeah, I think,
we understand.
We're more, not just more in tuned. I think you become a much more successful entrepreneur too, when you have that sense of enlightenment, because so many of us are struggling up to a certain point, but you reach a point where you start accepting and going with the flow, and you have this positivity that surrounds your world, and you have these groups of individuals that, you know, are supporting you and is your community. And it's interesting what happens when you get all those things aligned. You have this much more enlightened view of life.
Absolutely. There's a place for wisdom here. You know, you go through these experiences, and it's not from a textbook. It's not knowledge. It's not.
Oh, hell no. Hey, babies, you know, when they did the what to expect when you're expecting?
Yeah.
Let me tell you, when you have children, that book is bullshit. It doesn't tell you a lot of stuff that you're going to be dealing with.
No, it's a moot point. It is a moot point. Every soul comes out with its own path and its own energy, and it is not cookie cutter and one size fits all. That's for sure.
Nope. 100%.
It's interesting that you mentioned emotional intelligence based on our pre-hitting record conversation. There's actually a company where their number one focus on the employees that they hire, number one focus is emotional intelligence, and that company is Apple.
Wow.
The reason they're so successful and the reason that people are in love with them is not their products, because as we mentioned in the pre-interview, their products are more expensive and a couple of generations behind. The people that you interact with when you have a product that you need help with, they care about you so much as a person, you can't help but love them. But that doesn't mean that make their product better. It just means you are okay with it sucking and you get to talk to those people that love you. Did you guys know that?
So that must make, no, I definitely didn't. And that must make a really good work culture. Maybe not about the product, but working with
From what I understand, their work culture is amazing. And anyone that deals with customer service at any level, their number one hiring factor is emotional intelligence. You have to be able to relate to the people that you're talking to. So when you see people in stores for hours, they're there because it feels good, not because Apple is some kind of great tech company.
It's true, actually. I just had my computer crash and burn and be sent away. And like when I first had to talk to customer support, they weren't like, is it plugged in? Is it turned on? You know, it wasn't any of that. She was just like, oh, I got you. Let's walk through this. It was so human and reassuring. And she's like, let's get you an appointment. You need to bring it in. I'm like, okay. But it's true. I felt really, it's so vulnerable. Your whole business, your whole life is on there, all your writings and your documents. And you're like, am I going to lose it? Is it all going to be intact? And thankfully, everything was okay. But I have to say their customer support was pretty amazing. When I went to the store, I felt horrible for this guy. He was doing a presentation and no one was listening. It was like a Saturday night. There was like 55 million people and no one paying attention. And he's still presenting like this masterful artist, and no one's, it's just for entertainment, I guess, and education. But sort of felt bad for the guy. I'm like, I'll listen, even though this is completely boring and I don't have an Apple Watch and you're presenting on an Apple Watch, but I'll still listen.
Isn't it interesting that phase and that segment of that business world is what is the thing that propelled them to notoriety? That was the same thing. Was it Zappos? Like the online shoes? Their their goal was to have the best customer service experience imaginable. Had nothing to do with the shoes. The shoes are the shoes, right? You get the ones you like or don't like or whatever they hurt, whatever. But it's how you're treated as a person that really grew the value of the company into what it was. And it's the reason that the founder, I think he died this year, rest in peace. There's a reason he had such a huge following. It was because of the customer service experience, not the shoes, not the product.
You know who's also like that? I don't know if it's like this on the West Coast, but Trader Joe's. Everyone wonderful at Trader Joe's. Like that must be, you know, an employee criteria or something. They're just sunny and helpful and just
they are. I love them.
See, absolutely. And I think Trader Joe's sucks because I don't care about that part of the experience. They're like, Trader Joe's. I go there. I'm like, I can't find anything. I don't care about most of the stuff they're selling and everything's way more expensive. Why would I ever come here?
Is it more expensive?
It's the experience.
Yeah, it is the experience, but it's
It's the
actually over
experience
here, it's significantly less expensive.
in
Significant.
the
That's
city,
what I
right?
think so too. I don't think they're
Yeah.
expensive
They
though.
are compared to
No,
Midwest
it's
prices where I'm at. It's far more
Really?
expensive than my local grocery
Oh,
store. Yeah.
Oh, see,
yeah.
I don't experience that here. I
Mm-mm.
think
You're in a
they're less.
major city, right? You're in a top 10 city, Seattle and New York area, top 10
Okay.
cities.
Okay. All right. All right.
Yeah. I mean,
Although I
Oklahoma
did
City,
have
which
one
is probably a top
experience
50
yesterday
city.
with them
Hmm.
that,
Oh no.
yeah. And it was, so, with the supply chain issues, not every Trader Joe's is getting the produce that you typically would get. I love green onions with my salads, with my soups,
Yes.
with everything, right?
Yes.
So it's been hit or miss every time I go in. And so I
Mm.
figured, well, I'm going to call because last time I went, they didn't have any. And I called and this lady answered and I said, "Hey, do you guys have green onions today?" And she's like, "I didn't realize we had a problem with green onions." And I thought, somebody shit in her Cheerios today. Okay. So
Gee, that escalated quickly.
Bummer.
Not they had a
Yeah.
bad morning. Not they woke up on the wrong
Way
side
to
of the
take it to
bed.
next
They
level,
weren't awake
Carol.
yet. Someone
you're
shit
welcome.
in Cheerios.
Yeah.
Jeez, I know it's an expression, but wow.
So I was
I
like,
know.
okay,
Tough
I'm
crowd.
just gonna I'm just gonna be kind here. And I was just like, yeah. So the last few times I've come in, they told me that there was some issues in shipments that it's behind. So before I make the trip down there, I just want to make sure you guys have them. She puts me on hold. She goes, "Yeah, we got like 3 boxes in today. You should be fine." I'm like, holy fuck, man. So again, that's the reason I said, who shit in your Cheerios? So
You're getting someone fired from Trader Joe's right now, Carol.
I know, the poor green onion gal. It was not meant to be. You did her a service. If she gets fired, you did her a favor. Maybe she didn't
well,
want to
you
be
want to
there.
know something? She probably won't hear this and she won't give a shit anyway. So I don't care.
Truth is being spoken today. This is high truth over here.
This is what we do. So I gotta know, Anu, what is a traditional Indian, was it Indian Christian family? Because Christianity is not big in India, is it?
No, it's actually 2% of the population, Christianity. 2%. But that's of what, 50 billion. So
like they're on track to surpass China, right? Isn't it like 1.5 billion now?
I believe so. Yes, there is. I think it is over a billion now. So 2% of a billion is quite a large number, but in the grand scheme of things, it's really not. So it's interesting. It has its parameters. When I was raised in this family, there's limitations that come with Christianity in my experience, in my perspective, that I've felt as more of a freer spirit, as more of a freer soul. And then there's limitations that come from the Indian culture. And you put them two together, and that's a lot of box to need to bust out of at some point. So I would say, there was a lot of don't show your arms and cover long skirt. It's basically Amish is what my mom
was that
wanted me
Indian or was that Christian in your opinion?
Both. It was both.
Oh, really?
I grew up Christian and
I'm an Indian Orthodox, which is like Greek Orthodox, Russian Orthodox, and it's very similar to Catholic. So you have to cover yourself. And we were in traditional Indian garments, which not like Bollywood is actually very covered up. Like your tops are, all the way down. So it was really interesting, I would say, just having this experience of suffocation almost, where everything was just told to you and determined for you in certain ways. And there's certain ways of being, and there's certain ways of being as a young woman, and certain ways to behave. And you don't even smile in church, don't laugh in church, don't talk in church. So there was
that
just
sounds
a lot
Russian
of
Orthodox, no smiling. Yeah.
Well, they took this very seriously, and I understand. Like when I'm in my own prayers, I'm in it. I'm in that zone of stillness or dedication. So I can understand that. It just never fit. It was just never me.
Mm-hmm.
So as I went through the years, there's like moments of rebellion that would show up here and there. And it was really interesting. I feel like I take after my mom in certain ways, and then I take after my dad in certain ways. And so they both came from a village, both of them. So somehow my dad is like, he's got these worldly views and like these very broad perspectives. He can see the big picture of life. But my mom still has the village perspective where we're still in New York, but functioning in a village. So there's just, I feel like I grew up around an incredible amount of duality and mixed signals and polarity.
Yeah, no, it sounds like that's true. What's interesting about the Christian religion is a lot of the stuff that is said in the Bible is accurate and it applies in a lot of different scenarios. The problem is they don't know why it's that way, nor do they explain why it's that way. So like when they talk about prayer and the power of prayer, fully believe, fully on board. For those that are not into religion, it might sound like meditation or chanting or going through your dream board and talking about these things it's the same thing, but they just don't tell you what it actually means and how it's actually implemented and integrated. And then they talk about, I know a lot of religions care about the covering of women. They talk about in the Bible, it'd say something like, don't be a stumbling block to those around you. If we talk about a divine being that created the worst, and you agree or don't agree, whatever, right? If that's true, the divine being, like, we were designed to be attractive and desirable by the other sex. Like, that's without a doubt, right? How we pervert that image in our mind, that's on us, and that has nothing to do with what amount of clothing that you had on, right? Does a certain amount of clothing dictate a kind of action? I had a friend, I've never quite been able to get this story straight to make it sound good, but women that are then attacked and raped, and they're like, well, what was she wearing? Like, what they were wearing doesn't dictate the behavior to them, right? You see someone wearing a football jersey at a Buffalo Wild Wings, you don't tackle them because they were wearing a jersey. So you're not treating them how they were, how they were dressed, right? Like, wearing a jersey doesn't mean you're going to get tackled, and wearing something skimpy doesn't mean you're going to get attacked. Like, it has nothing to do with one another.
Travis.
It's like, it has nothing to do with anything. I don't get it. But if the vast majority of Christians that I've spoken to don't understand, they understand what you got to do, but they don't understand how to implement it, why it matters, or what that really does. And so that disconnect is what keeps people away from certain types of religious things and religious activities. I'm not for or against it. I'm just saying that's what I think.
I love what you think. And there's, I do think that there's an essence of truth to a lot of religions that are shared in common. And that's what I subscribe to. Mm-hmm. So, the basics of be a good human, be loving and kind as much as you can, be grace in the world, be love in the world. That I'm on board with. It's certain indoctrinations and interpretations where I get a little lost and I can feel distortion where I'm wondering to myself, well, how exactly was this communicated? Because I know anyone who's played the game of telephone, you start off at the top of the circle with one sentence, and then by the time it gets over here, it's like, what? The turtle ate my boxers? And it's like, no.
What kind of telephone you playing? How do I sign up?
I don't know.
Yeah.
but the kookiest things come out, and so I wonder, isn't that the game of Bible sometimes? Like it's man-made.
Well, any religion
interpretation. Yes.
Yeah.
Right. And I can only speak from the one that I know, but I just wonder how much was man-made for certain reasons or purposes, how much was distorted, and how much is actually distilled truth.
Yeah, I mean, they've got major councils that covered this stuff, right? Because there is gospel according to all these other people that's not included in the canonical Bible, right? There's a gospel according to Judas, and one of the main reasons it wasn't included is because it talks about how Jesus appeared to the disciples as different beings throughout their time. He would sometimes shown up as the man that we would say he is in that time when he was walking with disciples. Sometimes he showed up as a kid. Sometimes he showed up in different phases of being, and because they couldn't wrap their head around it, they couldn't include it in the canon. right? So it's interesting how it was decided and why. And like the picture that most Americans would see of Jesus looks like a white dude, and it's actually one of, I don't know, Constantine. Someone's gonna be like, Travis, you don't know anything. There's a chance that that's true, but there's some emperor, I think it was Constantine, I don't know, the photo, the painting is of his son, and that's the generally accepted white version of Jesus that we have floating around. Like if you thought of Jesus and you had the picture in your head, that picture is some guy's kid. It's not of Jesus, because Jesus is probably a darker skinned dude with bigger features that was a carpenter, right? Not like the white soft. Isn't he nice? He looks like us, Jesus. That's probably not very accurate.
No, I understand and track what you're saying. He was an avatar and he was constantly morphing. He was just a light body. And I do subscribe. That's one of the confusions I think my family has. They're like, what do you believe in? I'm like, I believe that in Christ's consciousness, the consciousness of Christ, which is pure love, unconditional love, embodies forgiveness, embodies mercy, embodies compassion and grace. And it has a healing power to it. That's what I believe. I don't need stories. I know there's always miracles that are possible in a certain energy. There's miracles possible in any kind of frequency that's raised, that's high. So I do believe he was a miracle maker. I do believe he was a healer. I do believe he was a carpenter. There's a lot of things that I subscribe to. He was an ascended master, but I don't know that saying the same prayer every week really invoked that for me. It was through life experience that was invoked for me.
So, but your family, I mean, you said they're Christian, and most Indians, correct me if I'm wrong, are Hindus.
Correct.
Okay, so how did you guys become Christians? Because I know in my family, same thing. The vast majority of them are Buddhists, and we've talked about this before. Yeah. And then our family, my mom's family decided to adopt Christianity. So, even I was baptized, the whole 9 yards, and the rest of my family, the majority of my family, is Buddhist. So it's an interesting thing how that happened. How did it happen for your family that you guys became Christians versus Hindu?
So my family is from Kerala, which is the absolute most southwestern coast of India. It's right at the tip. So boats came in. Yes, Travis, I just said that.
I knew it. The minute you said it, I looked
right there.
If you're listening to this and not watching the video, you're robbing yourself of a fantastic experience. I'm just letting you know that, those that are listening.
I'm going to leave that there. And so the boats would come in. So actually what we were taught, it goes as far back as St. Thomas, the disciple. In AD 52, he came on the boat and he brought Christianity to these port areas. So Goa is another area that is known to be Christian, and Kerala. So Kerala is the birthplace of Ayurveda, and there's Christians there, there's Hindus there, there's Muslims there, there's Jewish there. There's actually everything. There's I'm sure there's more Buddhist.
So it's like a melting pot because it was like a port.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's
all the ports. All the ports in the world are pretty much the same experience. Yeah, I'm looking at a breakdown right now of religion in India. It's about 80% is Hindu, 14% is Islam. And then you got Christianity at just over 2%. Then you've got Sikhism, Buddhism, tribalism, Jainism, Zoroastrianism, and a whole bunch of other stuff. But overwhelmingly, the major 3: Hindu, Islam, and Christianity.
Yes, and so that's another way in which I'm an outlier, right? So I'm Indian, but I'm not Hindu. I'm Christian. So like, it's this like othering, right? And it's like, I don't fit a lot of these stereotypes where it's like, I don't speak Hindi. That's not the language of, I know, Carol. I know, all the signals point, we get it. I don't speak Hindi. That's not our language. Our language is Malayalam and English. And I mean, my parents speak Hindi because they grew up there, but I've picked up a couple of words here and there just from watching movies as a kid and still to today, because it's a guilty pleasure of mine. But there's so many ways in which there's these stereotypes that exist that I don't even fit. So it's just interesting to be this outlier.
Who wants to fit? I mean, quite honestly, don't you just want to create the person that you want to be?
Life. Yeah. Not when I was a kid. Nope.
No, of course we wanted to fit in, right? And just try to be like everybody else and don't stick out like a sore thumb. And
you want to be accepted.
It's like almost like survive. Yes,
you want to be accepted into the group and then celebrated as an individual, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
You want to be accepted and then you want to be you within that group, but you got to get in first. Is that how you felt?
Yeah. Absolutely. So in the beginning, I don't know how this ended up happening. It was kind of beautiful, to be honest. I grew up in the suburbs, mostly all white. It was me, my brother, and cousins, but they were in different school districts and whatnot. So
when did you come to the States? So were you born in the States?
Born in New York. I was born in New York.
Okay.
Yep. And then we moved to the burbs. And my city life didn't last very long. Even my spirit was huge back then. I was like 6 months. I'm like, we're out of here. Let's go play in like the trees. And I need to run around and have swing sets. So I would say, I don't know how this is. I guess it was a very special place. Everybody was incredibly embracing of me, and no one treated me otherwise. That's not to say that was my internal experience, but externally, no one treated me like I was different, or like I didn't experience racism as a child. I didn't have adversity. I feel like they just connected to my personality or my spirit and treated me as such. And so that was a big fat win for growing up. But on the inside, I didn't look like my white friends. And so my version of beauty was distorted, growing up, because I'm like, well, I don't look like that. There's a lot of blonde hair and blue eyes and blonde hair and green eyes. And it's like,
look at California. Like California, all the girls were blonde hair, blue eyes. All the guys loved them. I was like, I'm fucking a brunette with brown eyes. This is not going well.
I experienced the exact same thing because I'm from northern Minnesota, where everyone is Swedish and Norwegian, and all the guys in my family are blonde hair, blue eyed, and almost everyone in school was blonde hair, blue eyed. Me having dark hair and dark eyes, I was the uggo, which I know is not true now, but I felt that way.
I know, isn't it weird?
Yeah. We share that in common. See, look at that. Oh, this is so nice, seeing all our similarities.
It's a bonding moment.
It is. This is really sweet. I know. I feel it in my heart. I'm like, virtual hugs. I do. I feel like a wonderful warmth around it. But I would say that was definitely a struggle growing up. Was like, I didn't identify physically with these features. And then with my Indian family and culture and religion, I didn't really feel similar on the inside. So no matter where I was like, I just don't belong to any of this. And it wasn't until college when I just came into like an incredible amount of diversity that I just really sprouted. Yeah.
I heard that about you. Yep.
I thought you were going to ask a question. You have this.
I know. I was waiting
so often that I'm like, oh, okay, I'm not going to step on you. So yeah, go ahead.
I don't have any questions. I yield my time.
No further questions, Your Honor.
No further questions.
Yeah. So it was just, go ahead.
So then when you were, I know this is from my family, right? And being from an Asian culture, we all have these duties and responsibilities that we have to adhere to, especially to our parents.
Yeah.
And was there a profession that originally they wanted you to, be a part of? And then of course you didn't choose that because, where you are now, but what was that profession? And then what caused you to change?
It's interesting because my brother was on the path of medicine. And I always knew I wanted to be in healthcare. And I sort of was like, yeah, I'm meant to be in medicine too, in a very different way right now. But, and for a long time, actually. But when I started on the trajectory of medicine and pre-med, my mom, who was a labor and delivery nurse, she actually was telling me, she's like, I really want you to reconsider this. So it was actually the opposite. There wasn't pressure to be a certain profession. It was, I want you to think about this for a second, because it's not a really good lifestyle for a woman who wants a family. You're on demand, round the clock. And, there's a tremendous amount of responsibilities. It's incredibly challenging to have balance. So I actually did reconsider that. And pretty early on, I knew when I discovered this physical therapist through this exploration program about different professions, I was like, I could do that for the rest of my life. This woman has compassion and she's helping people get better. Like that, it just felt so right and so resonant. And so I actually chose that. And it's funny, my dad didn't have an opinion about it. He was just
was that physical therapy?
Correct.
Okay.
Physical therapy. So it was interesting. My dad really didn't, he's like, I don't care. Just be the best at whatever you're going to do. Just be an absolute mastery of what you're going to do and no less. Get the highest degree that you can get and excel. I'm like, okay, all right. That's what I did. I got my doctorate and I went out in the world. And it's funny how life took a turn and changed directions and the course of my path completely just through life. Should I elaborate?
Yeah. It sounds like you
Okay.
did something and then didn't answer the second half of Carol's question, right? What you said, you
What
got
was the second
into
half?
physical therapy, but then what
Yes.
caused you to get out of that? And what did you get in? Like, what was the big change?
So back in 2006, on New Year's Day, I got a call that my brother had suddenly passed away. And it was literally in that moment that I felt severe mid-back pain. And even being a PT, I was like, okay, I'll take care of this later. There's like, I have to go tell my parents, they were in church, and I have to go deliver this incredibly serious and heavy news that their firstborn, beloved child that they thought they were going to be celebrating his wedding, they're actually now preparing for his funeral. So it was pretty intense. There was a lot of pressure around that. And I remember delivering the news. We went back to my house, and one of the beauties of the Indian culture is it's very community and village minded. So everyone swooped in, everyone dove in and showed up at the house. And we had like hundreds of people. And yet I'm a creature of space. I needed space. So I was sort of suffocating in that beloved support that was actually present. I was like, I need everyone to back up.
There was just way too much energy coming
Pressure.
at you.
Too people-y for you?
Pardon?
Too people-y for you?
People-y?
No, it's more of, it's a moment of shock and absolute blindsiding. He passed of an aneurysm in his sleep. So
how old is he?
29.
Oh, it is
29.
shocking. It is shocking.
It's shocking. And
Yeah.
I thought the call from his fiance was going to be Happy New Year. And instead she's telling me my brother passed. That was a lot to process in a moment of, when I'm 25 years old. It was just a lot to take in. And then the responsibility that I saw in front of me of like, I got to get out of the city and go up to the burbs and tell my parents now directly. That was a lot. It was a lot.
Yeah.
It was an incredible burden to carry. Yet there was also this incredible amount of light around me and grace. It was like he was there and he's like, I'm going to tell them with you. I'll be there with you. So I just remember that there was an insane amount of ease around it in a strange way. Like I was just a messenger or I was just channeling something, but compassionately so. And I still to this day can remember the screech of my mom when I told her. Like my dad went in to skepticism and like, well, let's get all the information. We don't know if this is true. Like, let's find out. And my mom, that shrill hit every nerve in my being.
Moms know. You can
moms
feel.
know. Moms know. And by the way, interestingly enough, my mom and I had a shared experience that morning before we got the news. I don't get anxiety attacks. I had an anxiety attack at 8 something in the morning, and I panicked and I got up and I was like, oh, are they towing my car? I just had this insane moment. I didn't know what the hell was going on. I just felt, now I know, based on the autopsy report, that was the time his spirit left. And I felt that separation. I felt that moment of him going and leaving. And we were so connected. We were like twins. We had just like this telepathic connection. I definitely looked up to him big time as my older brother. And we just had like this, almost like a twin kind of connection. So I just remember feeling that. And my mom said the same thing. She's like, I had anxiety. I couldn't breathe properly. My heart was racing on the way to church this morning. And I was thinking, my God, we're all just so in tune and sensitive and connected. We know things without knowing things.
Mhm.
We nurture those children in our bodies. You cannot tell me there is not some special connection with each one of those children that you bear into this world.
And that's what she felt.
Yeah, we had this situation, I don't know, it was like 13 or 14. And my mom got this feeling and she rushed out to where my sister was. She was at one of the lakes and she was missing. At the same time, I fell out of a tree. I fell like 25, 30 feet and ended up breaking both of my wrists and fracturing my hip. But it both happened at the same time. And she got this feeling out of nowhere and rushed to where my sister was, where she was missing. And then she got home and there was a note from the paramedics saying that they brought me to the ER because I had I had hurt myself, but she knew. I mean, this was in the 90s, so there was no one was texting nobody. So it wasn't like, someone's at the beach and be like, oh, here's this viral video of your daughter going missing. Like, none of that stuff. Like, she had to know in order to make that happen.
That instinct. She had that instinct, that mama instinct.
Intuition.
So it is intuition. And so at that point, I was carrying this burden and this pain in my back. And we went through the whole process of the funeral and a burial and everything. And this pain was unrelenting. It wasn't going away. So I went to my physical therapy cohorts and chiropractors and like everything I knew at the time to help resolve the pain. I was like, I think you just need to crack my back or something. And it wouldn't budge. It wasn't going. And it wasn't until about 6 months in that my cousin was like, oh, there's this healer in town. You might want to book a session. I'm like, okay. I just booked it. I didn't even know what was happening. I'm like, what's a healer? Who cares? I didn't ask any questions except the time. And I just showed up. And when I did, he was a shaman and he worked on the subconscious level, which is what I'm doing. And he had said to me, I'm feeling a tremendous amount of guilt in your back that you're holding and a tremendous amount of grief. And it was true. I was holding this survivor's guilt that if it was me that passed away, it would have been easier on my parents. There wouldn't be people mourning and upset. Like somehow it would have been.
But that's not true, Anu. I mean,
well, we know that now.
Yeah.
But in the moment,
not how she felt.
Yeah. That was my experience of it. It was like, oh my God, like, it was just so heartbreaking. It was also the back of the heart. So in just addressing those emotions, he's like, you're holding so much emotion for so many people around you. And I just bawled. I finally felt like I had a space to just drop it and let it go. And very, like, so gently, he just pressed his hands on my back and that pain was gone. And he was very clear. He's like, I just want to tell you, you're here for a reason. This is the work you're meant to do. And I didn't even actually take it in. I was like, okay, that's interesting.
Whatever, bro. I got shit to do.
Yeah, exactly. My back pain is gone. That's all I know. Yeah, exactly. I was just like, whatever. I'm just happy to be pain free finally. And
Right.
then something started opening in me, this curiosity where it's like, what was that? And why do I feel so good? For the last 6 months, I was disoriented, confused. I was completely disconnected from my body. I remember walking around and looking up and being like, what block am I on? Like, I need to get back to work. Like, I just wasn't there. And then all of a sudden after that session, I was there. I was present. I was in my body. I was centered. And I was like, this is an interesting experience. So I started studying under him and learning, like, and it's funny how quickly things just started coming back online. Like, these were gifts that were just dormant sitting inside of me, and they just started reawakening. I just started remembering a whole bunch of things. So I just dove into the healing arts because I wanted to understand actual health, and I wanted to understand what's really causing pain and what's really causing disease and illness. And so I've been in the underworld for nearly 2 decades, just submersed in this stuff. It's fascinating to me.
Please tell me your business uses the term underworld in its title. Please.
It doesn't, but it will now.
Please, dear God. Please, dear
it doesn't, but it will after this. I'll incorporate it somehow. Bringing you to the underworld and then back up.
You know, that is really
style.
That is really interesting that you talk about your back pain. I've got back pain and back conditions, and I remember a time where I used to like be very flexible and sleep on my stomach, and I've always had a slight scoliosis. But then I remembered where my back started being painful in the middle, not like lower back pain, in the middle, like between the shoulder blades and middle of the back, and trying to think, like, as you're talking, I'm like, this is interesting. I'm like, what was I doing at that time? What was it? Because I wasn't in an accident. There was like no other like major thing that like made that happen. So, and then I'm wondering, am I holding guilt and grief or something that happened? And that's why my back's been hurting for the last 14-ish years. Is that the thing?
It could be. That's also another common trend in the shoulder blades are where a lot of people hold a lot of emotion and a lot of stored. So according to Chinese medicine, behind the rib cage, right between the shoulder blades is where you can store grief, but it's also worth, your self-worth. So there's that. And then it's a common place where people tuck away their most negative thought. Everybody has like a most negative thought, a repetitive thought that repeats through life, like I'm not good enough, or I'm not enough, or I'm not worthy, or I'm bad, or whatever that is. And it just continues through life. And that's actually where a lot of people store it, is behind the shoulder blades.
That's interesting, because most people I know tell me I need to work on my humility. So maybe it's false bravado that's coming out. I really don't feel that way about myself.
It could be, the overcompensation. It could be going the other end of the spectrum when it's maybe, some version of insecurity, which every single human has ever felt. So it's worth exploring and seeing what it does. I mean, you have nothing to lose.
Now, while I can lose my back pain, that'd be great.
That's a lot to gain.
Have you seen my back pain? No, can't find it. Me neither. Isn't that wonderful? Like
that would be wonderful. And maybe there's a possibility. So I bet if you even asked it, like see, that's the thing that I love about the body. It's so intelligent and it has its own wisdom and it has messages. And if you actually just sit there and ask it, what is this? What are you trying to communicate? Because pain is communication. It's letting you know something. It's a signal. There's something going on.
Oh,
so
I can attest to that because I have not been sleeping and I've had terrible insomnia. And here's the funny thing, Anu. I didn't realize all the stuff was going on in my body, right? And now I can totally explain why. I wasn't sleeping. My body was going wackadoo. And then something manifested in my eye, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sitting here going, huh?
Yeah.
Wackadoo, is that the medical term?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a technical, like, medical term.
Wackadoo.
Yeah.
And then there's also cuckoo.
Cuckoo
is the
Cuckoo, wackadoo, and weirdo.
That's just a lesser, it's a lesser degree.
Yeah. Wackadoo is like kind of up there. But your body manifests things. And if you listen, if you're in tune with your body and you listen, your body gives you messages. And it's interesting, like even talking to Ollie, he was like sitting there telling me, oh, you should like reset your rhythm, your circadian rhythm, right? And he started doing some research on it. But for some reason, that wasn't connecting. That wasn't resonating with me as a problem. It wasn't until it manifested that I'm sitting here going, oh my God, because guess what? I started the course of antibiotics. I slept like a rock last night. See, isn't that interesting? Your body is trying to tell you things. So you kind of have to know your baseline for your body so that you know when something's off, and then start figuring out. It's like our bodies are puzzles,
Absolutely. And the funny thing about the body, I used to think of it as like muscles and nerve network and blood flow and organs, and that's that. But really, there's so many little pockets of memories and emotions and stored beliefs and trauma experiences that actually start to cover up the intelligence of the body, because then the body has to start rerouting itself. It doesn't have that route available. So it starts, okay, so we're not going to go to Carol's eye. We're going to go over here. And then something starts happening here.
You're not paying attention. God damn it. I'm going to make you pay attention.
What don't you want to see?
Right? Well, yeah, exactly. Right. Hey, you're a vain little bitch. So if we try, we know you're going to listen.
Yeah. Well, you got to look at like, hey, there's a blind spot here. What do I not want to see? What's in front of me that I don't want to see? Or what am I judging myself for? There's a lot in perception that can manifest in the eye.
Isn't it interesting that our bodies will send us those messages? Why are you sitting there smirking,
Because I love the conversation, but my mind, it wanders. I just pictured like a t-shirt series, like "You're a vain little bitch," Carol Carpenter, like that written on a t-shirt. I was like, I wonder if these would sell.
I would wear it.
See, we got what I got to sell right there. One for one.
I would just cut the sleeves. I'd have to make it my own, of course, but I would wear it.
You're a vain.
Oh no, Travis comes up with this all the time. I'll say something and he'll go, we need to make a t-shirt with that on it.
Do you have a t-shirt business? Because you're good on like these slogans and coining expressions and all of that.
I do have a lead into one. They all do buy on demand drop ship. So there's no minimum like buy and all that stuff. And then just promote the link and people can click and they make it, create it, and ship it. And you ain't got to do nothing. I had some amazing friends of mine
to insert that link in there.
Yeah. If you want to get hold of these people, that's Really Designs, Ginger and David. They're amazing people. I'll put that in the show notes. By me, I mean Laura Lee will put those in the show notes.
Thank you, Laura Lee.
Thank you, Laura Lee, for supporting Travis and his business ventures.
She's amazing. I couldn't do what I do without her.
Everybody's got that right hand. That it's like, what would I do without you? And luckily they're like, you don't have to ever figure that out. I'm right here.
Because I'm here behind you forever. I'll never leave you.
I don't think it's like that, but
we've been talking about all different levels of craziness.
No, we'd have to cut those cords and
what
love you.
Was it in Wedding Crashers? I'll find you, and she's like,
Stage 5. That's a stage 5 clinger. She was a stage 5 clinger. Yeah,
stage 5 clinger. Absolutely.
That's pretty serious. I hope I don't have those.
It's hilarious that they had a protocol for stage 5 clingers. That was the best part about it.
That was a good movie.
They had a protocol that they had to implement based on a thing that they knew was real, and they had it and they executed the plan. Oh, it's hilarious. We've got to go. I've got a stage 5 clinger. Yeah, but I'm macking on this other girl over here and I can't go. Fine, I'll suck it up. It'll suffer. Hilarious. If you don't know what we're talking about Wedding Crashers and Vince Vaughn and Owen Wilson. It's hilarious.
It is hilarious. And oddly enough, he ended up with her. That's the twisted surprise. He was into it. He's like, you know what? I kind of dig this stage 5 clinging action.
You never
I
know.
love the
You never quite know what you're going to be into or what's going to be like the words no, stop, and don't. Are they bad words? Or did they just get a bad read? No, stop, don't. Are you serious? We can't do that right now. The words themselves mean different things in different context.
Context.
No, stop.
Yeah,
We're
absolutely.
at a party. Seriously? You're so bad. No, stop, don't. You're so bad. Like you get a bad, like which one? The words, are they always bad?
No.
I guess it's how they're
No.
said. What's
the
the context?
intention.
Yeah.
The
Yes,
context and
intention.
the intention behind it.
Yeah.
What's the intention in which you're using it, or the context in which it's used?
Well, that was in My Cousin Vinny with Ralph Macchio. He's like, I killed someone. What? I killed someone? And they read it in court. He's like, I killed that person. I killed that person. Like, I got a terrible read on it. And that was most of the movie was that misunderstanding.
I can't believe you brought that movie up. I love that movie.
I watched it for the first time within the last 2 months. I've never seen it before.
Really?
Yeah. And then that I had a friend that quoted that movie, and then I said that, and he's like, dude, what the fuck? We can't even be friends anymore. And it finally came on one of the streaming services, and I watched it. No kidding, like within the last 2 months. And I was like, it was pretty good. You know what else I watched recently? That's pretty good. Basic Instinct. I had never watched that before.
Oh, for God's sake. Are you serious?
Well, when it came out, I was a kid, Carol. Like that wasn't allowed.
Oh, wow. See, that was a dig to make me feel old.
It was a dig, but only because you accepted that.
No, it didn't work. He can suck it.
Yeah. Yeah.
He can suck it. What?
I have a feeling Carol's just fine. She's intact and she's all right.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong. I get to show up every week with beautiful people and hang out. So what age is just a number. Now age is just a word. Like how you feel about it is completely up to you.
Age is a mindset too.
Agreed.
If you really truly believe it, then you will be it. So
yeah.
Agreed.
I believe I'm like 25.
I see it. I feel it. It's your light, your energy. You're so much lighter. Like you're not bogged down by life and burdens and you don't wear life. You play with life. You don't wear it.
Yeah, so life doesn't control me. Right. No. We just go with the flow and let it happen, because if we're like water, it's so much easier. And I want to go for the ride.
And I want to go
for the ride. Know, Moto Vixen. We know. And it's completely hot. I was like, if I was a dude and I was into girls, or if I was a girl and into girls, you'd be the girl. Like that whole motorcycle image.
And we're going there.
Yeah. Yeah. That would
I'm into it. I'll go there. Let's see where this leads. Yeah.
Oh boy. I said if.
So as we're getting ready to wrap up anew, I'd like to give you the chance to, if you have anyone that's listening to this that's struggling with something, what advice would you give them? And then what's the one place you would like people to find you, connect with you?
So if people are struggling,
people are struggling.
People are struggling.
They are.
I would say find the thing that makes them feel like they're home again. Find the thing that makes them feel like they're in their root of themselves. Like it could be moving meditation, like riding a bike. It could be walking in nature. It could be sitting under the sun, reading a book, like whatever it is that makes you feel like yourself and brings you back home. There's so many different ways to explore that and, release the emotions that they're bogged down in. So that's the first question. And the second question is, you can find me through my website, www.anuabraham.com. You can find me on LinkedIn under Anu Abraham, and you can find me on Instagram under _Anu Abraham. The double underscore is important.
The double. It's got to be the double.
Double.
Right.
Listen, there's a lot of me out there. There's many Anu Abrahams. It's
I can't believe that, really.
It's shocking. But like when I was going to Google to find a Gmail address, they're like, how about Anu Abraham 5324896? I'm like, nope, that's not gonna work. That was the suggestion that came up. Like, we're not taking a bunch of serial numbers here because that's how many preceded. But
is that your inmate number? Is that what that is?
That's what happened after pole dancing class. I misused my strength. That's what happened, unfortunately.
Oh man.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. It tracks.
It tracks. No one's
Very
shocked.
cool.
No one on this
Okay.
call nor listening to this is like, yeah, I can see that. I can totally see that coming. Yeah.
Yeah. Now they have
Well,
a sense of
we know Anu's naughty, so
she's criminal and naughty. She's
Well-
criminal, she's provocative, she's naughty, all these things, and kind and compassionate. And
yes,
Yeah.
she
other
is
things
Yeah.
incredibly.
too.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
That's what I heard anyway on the internet.
Yeah. There's a lot to read.
There is a lot to read. I want to thank you for being our guest today and having a lot of fun exploring who you are, kind of the pitfalls of Christianity and a whole other host of different things, including why my back hurts. Thank you, Anu, for being our guest today.
My pleasure. It was an honor. Thank you guys for having me. I
Thank you,
really
Anu.
appreciate it. Yeah.
That's all for this episode of Titan Evolution Podcast. We hope this no-holds-barred conversation opened your eyes on what it takes to live a genuinely happy life according to your own terms. Now that you've treated yourself to such a refreshing discussion, you cannot listen to nonsense content anymore. Be sure not to miss an episode by subscribing to the show at TitanEvolutionPodcast.com. Don't forget to share the word so more people can be enlightened, informed, and entertained. Thank you for listening.